The first thing I want to cover for those of you who are having trouble with ads on Facebook is I'm going to run you through how to make an ad and discuss the reasons why you might be getting blocked from posting it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Sometimes you might want to boost a post. You post something on your main feed and you want it to reach more people. So for instance, we put up this post about the event that's happening right now, and we wanted to make sure a lot of people saw it. So before we did any advertising, it reached about 140 people. And then we used this boost thing, and then it reached another 700 people. And that takes money. You have to put in money. So you press this boost button, and what happens is you might have to select this special ad category. So you select all these things, and I'm going to run through them. But the things you need to look out for when you make an ad. First of all, your graphic. Your graphic, the rule Facebook uses, it has this algorithm that tracks everything. Your graphic really cannot take up more than 50% of the space. So if you're consistently getting rejected, you might want to take a look at your graphic to make sure that it's not too wordy. Those tend to get rejected pretty easily. So you see this graphic here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. They take up, I'd say, about 40% of the actual space within the graphic. And the rest of it is just very simple, but this is to ensure it doesn't get picked up by the algorithm. So to make this, when you're starting out, you might want to just in your mind put a line down the middle of your blank space and say, my text is not going to cross over this line. And then over time, you'll get more fluid with it. This description, the description that it has right here, this would not fly. This is too long. It's not going to reach anybody. You want to make it really short. So, I mean, you could say anything from a few words like come to our event, which won't really work if people don't know you, but you can put something more descriptive like come learn about how to use social media. And in fact, 700 people saw something along those lines, and I'm guessing a few of you are here from that. The next step is going to be special ad categories. So if you're promoting something to do with a political issue, if you're trying to get people to vote, if you're trying to teach people about abolition or environmental justice, you're probably going to have to say to Facebook, hey, this is a special ad category. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up, because if you select social issues, elections, or politics, or any of these, you have to be verified. So Ohio Voice is verified. We are a registered nonprofit with the United States, and also my personal identity is confirmed with Facebook. How do you do all that? You have to actually go through and do a whole process. So the first thing is your organization needs to be a nonprofit, but there are other ways to get around that if you're not a nonprofit. The other thing that you need to make sure is everyone who wants to run an ad has a confirmed identity with Facebook. There will be a time, if you haven't done this, it'll just say your identity is not confirmed. So you just want to click on that, and it'll run you through a whole thing where it'll send you a piece of mail through the postal service, and it'll take a picture of your driver's license. And then it takes about a week, and that's how you confirm your identity with Facebook. Once you have that, you can actually post things. So those are the two main things. You need to be a registered nonprofit or a political action committee, and you need to have a confirmed identity. Now, if you're not a nonprofit, that's actually something Ohio Voice helps with. We can actually help you get things up online if you are not allowed to have ads up. And if you're interested in that service, definitely reach out to Charlie, who will then get you back in touch with me. And I'll put my email address too if you have any direct questions. Or actually, Charlie, if you go ahead and drop my email address in the chat at some point. And everyone is free to contact me. So that is something that definitely holds a lot of people back from getting their posts out. Now, the other way to get around this is just don't post things that are directly related to social issues, elections, or politics. So how do you do that? Well, Ohio Voice, and I'm going to plug some other events we do. Ohio Voice does a series of events called Inhale, Exhale, which is where we try to create a forum for organizers to heal. And those, while they are practically political, the body is political, us healing as a community is political, but the wording of this is really not clearly political, so it gets by Facebook's algorithm very easily. So we say our event is for health and healing, and then when we boost it, we don't check special ad category, and it gets by just fine. So that is the other trick you can do, is take everything political out of your graphics and out of your wording. And it's tricky because some of us are organizing around housing, some of us are organizing around elections. So really what you want to do is use those ads to drive people to your page so that they can see the other content that you're posting that is political. For instance, we do get a lot of people who come to these Inhale Exhale events, and then they stick around. It's come for the healing, stay for the politics kind of thing. That might be a strategy that works for some of you. Are there any questions at this point? Charlie, are you seeing anything in the chat?
Teresa actually said too, if we could clarify the cost for boosting. Mm-hmm. Does it cost anything versus like nonprofit versus not, that type of thing?
Typically, the cost is really, it's something you're going to have to fine tune based on how motivated you are to get people to see your post and who you're targeting. So that's actually right what I'm getting into now. So these audiences, this is a very base level way to build audiences. There's much more advanced things that I could get into, but we might have to leave that for a different day. So let's say with this event, I was targeting a very specific group of people in a few cities. So what I would do after I've gotten to this dialogue is I'm going to create new. Let's say this is a test audience. Let's say I want to target people who identify as male between the ages of 21 and 24 who are interested in Black Lives Matter. You can actually do that. So I'm going to select men. I'm going to say 20. What ages? I don't even remember what ages I said. 21 to 24. And I only want people who are in Cleveland and Cincinnati for some reason. When you're marketing in Ohio, at least, the 3 Cs are kind of the most metropolitan areas. So we do typically get a lot of activity where we specifically target Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, but I'm leaving Columbus out of it for no apparent reason. So I've created this audience. I'm going to select a random post off of our page that is not an event. We'll just pick the first post on the Ohio Voice page. So I make my test audience. I spelled audience wrong, forgive me. This part is, the spelling is not important. I promise you that doesn't affect how many people you reach. Cincinnati, let's just keep it that way. Okay, so Facebook tells me that with this group that I've selected, I can reach 130,000 people, but I haven't actually put in any other details. So detail targeting here, we're gonna put people who care about Black Lives Matter as an interest. So apparently there's 4,900 male identifying people between the ages of 20 and 26 in Cincinnati that are on Facebook, according to Facebook. Sure. We're going to create that audience. And then you'll see on the top right here, we're seeing estimated daily results. So how many people is it going to reach in a day, and how many people does Facebook think will click on it? So if I'm making an ad for I want people to share it, I might actually go up to here under goals, and I might say I want more engagement. But if you're trying to get people to go to your website, you might say get more website visitors. I'm going to say get more engagement just for the sake of it. So post engagement, we might get like 56 likes and shares or whatever. So that's with $10 over the course of 5 days. So that's $2 a day. That's not too bad. If there's 5,000 people, we're essentially going to reach like 1,500 of them. But you'll see if we increase the number of days, increase the budget, we're going to reach more of them. So now we're reaching 500 people per day over the course of 8 days. That's with a $30 total budget. And of course, you could say, I'm going to spend $1,000. You're going to reach every single person in that audience, and you're going to reach them multiple times. And you're going to get at least 200 people liking and sharing that post every day. But I don't really recommend spending $1,000 on Facebook ads unless you're like Pepsi Cola or something, which none of us are. And if you are, you really shouldn't be here. The stuff down here, pixels, I might have to cover that in a different session. There's a lot of advanced things, and some people did mention they want to see analytics. So I'm going to get into analytics now. And before I move on to some overview analytics, are there any questions at this point?
There are a couple more. I kind of answered a little bit for Julia, but just wondering what social media, organizing on social media can mean. Is it just Facebook, or is it more than that? And then Teresa asked, does Facebook tell us the cost, or do we create the cost for the booth?
Absolutely. So I'll answer the second question first. So we tell Facebook how much we're willing to spend. So in that case, I just told Facebook, I'm willing to spend $30 over the course of 8 days. And Facebook told me in return, okay, we're going to reach about 500 people a day. Facebook might not use your entire budget, but it won't go over that $30. So Facebook doesn't tell you how much it costs. You tell Facebook how much you want to spend. In response to the question about what organizing on social media looks like, that is like a whole webinar unto itself. But no, you do not have to be limited to Facebook. There's definitely a lot of things that you can do on Twitter, on Instagram. TikTok is very happening right now. And you can put money into all of those things as well, or just, create hashtags and get a lot of people in your network to amplify those hashtags. You can create different groups. Facebook groups are great. Instagram groups, well, they're not groups, but Instagram DM groups, where you message a lot of people all at once. That's a great way for grassroots organizers to work. Although if you're discussing sensitive things, you should be using Signal or Telegram. The other thing is, using social media is not the only form of digital organizing. For example, you might want to create a petition on your website, or you might want to use Action Network to create a petition. If you haven't used Action Network before, you definitely should. But with Action Network, you can create email campaigns and petitions, and then you can use Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to push people to sign your petition. So, for example, one of the brands under ohvoice, right now, we are trying to get people to send in letters to state representatives. So you might want to push people to this page, copy this link onto Facebook and Twitter and share it with your network and say, hey, go to this link and fill it out. And that is kind of, digital organizing is evolving every day, and there is no one path to success. There's only like a crazy number of tools, and you have the option of what you want to use. So let's move on to some analytics. So say you manage ohvoice's Facebook page. If you do, then I guess we're coworkers, or you're taking my job. But I manage ohvoice's Facebook page. And one of the things that our executive director asks me from time to time is, how are we doing? What is working on social media? And when I get that question, I go over to the left side and I go to this thing that says insights. Now, Facebook will automatically give you a few insights on here, which are not like that useful, especially if you're interested in what's been going on over the course of the last year. It'll tell you like how many people took actions, how many saw your page, all of that. That's not that useful for a lot of people. So instead, what we can do is we can go over here to export data, and did it click? Yeah. So Facebook will let us pull data from the page. Specifically, we can pull page data, which is how many people are following us, how many people are clicking on everything, that kind of thing. And then we can actually also see post data, which is data specifically on each of the posts we put up. And when you do that, you can import it into Excel or Google Sheets or something, and then really get a better sense. So say, for instance, I'm really interested in post data. Um, if you have Excel on your computer, you can download it this way. I don't use Excel, so I use it as a comma separated values file format. And then this date range, you can actually pick anything between now and the last 180 days. Um, Let me rephrase that. You can download data in 180-day increments. So you can download data across the entire lifetime of your page, but you're going to have to download it in 180-day increments, which can get a little tedious. So I don't do it that way. I did it once when I started, and now I just download like week by week, and then I add it on to a Google Sheet. So like from today to like it's March, so let's say last September. No, that's gonna be too long. Let's say last November, the first of last November to now. I want all the. Oh, that was too long. This is what I'm talking about. Facebook will say that's too many days. Oh, that's why. What's today's date? 19th. Okay. So we're going to look at everything, all the posts between November 20th of last year and March today. So when you download that, you get a whole thing. I already have all this stuff downloaded, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like. But I recommend you import that into Excel or Google Drive or something so that you can actually analyze it. Welcome to my very messy Google Drive. And we're going to look at this review that I did in February. So I spent some time downloading all the page data and post data from the last 2 years on the Ohio Voice page. And when you import that all into one file, this is kind of what it looks like. So this is page data. So what you're seeing is one column is here are the number of people who liked your page. You might also see how many people unliked your page, or how many people reacted to something on your page each day or each week or each month. And what you can do with this is a whole lot of things. You can create charts that you can then show to your director. So for example, here's a chart that shows here's the paid and organic engagement over the last 2 years. So the blue is organic engagement. So that's posts that we did not pay for, and how many people actually liked them or shared them, and then posts that we did pay for and how many people reacted to those. We can look at how many people followed us over the last 2 years. So, you can see that we are actually getting followers. Good for us. You can see how our engagement looks. So this is a chart to just show I do my job, because it basically went up after I joined. These are basic analytics, and once you download this chart, you have a ton of this information at your hands, and it really is just up to you to play with it and find out what is important to you. So you can even find out did our posts go viral? If they did, the numbers are bigger. Simple as that. So that's page data, and then you also have post data. So you'll get a document like what is about to come up on the screen, which actually takes each of the things that you've ever posted on that page, and it'll give you information on how many people saw it, which is impressions, how many people saw it just because it popped up, which is organic impressions, how many saw it because you paid to have them see it, which is paid impressions, and then how many people actually stayed engaged with it, which is they liked it or they shared it or they came back to it more than once. And when you have something like this, the best thing you can do then is you can actually sort. You can see what was my most successful post. So I'm going to sort this column, and I see the most successful post based on total impressions was this one post on November 20th, 2020, which I think was about some event. And you even get the link to it, so you can go see the exact post. So this is a really useful tool because it helps you find out what works on your page. So this is how we figured out people really like our events at Ohio Voice. Those are our most successful posts, but it differs based on the page. So for example, I also manage a page called One Ohio Now. One Ohio Now is focused on budget and tax policy. The people who follow that page are way different than the people who follow Ohio Voice. So if I look at the most popular post on that page, I'm going to see this is the most popular based on total impressions. And it is not an event for sure. It's probably, yeah, it's a news article about the fact that people in Ohio are not being supported by their government, basically. So this is a great way to see what is working. You can also break it down, like see, okay, what were the most successful posts that I paid for? What were the most successful posts that I didn't pay for? And what posts generated a lot of engagement? So this is really surface level analytics, but it's very powerful. And if you're not using these already, absolutely use them. Some people ask for really practical tips. So my practical tip is when you're gonna download all this information, if your page has been online for multiple years, go to Google and literally look up 180 days from today, and then search 180 days before that day, and keep going until you're past the first day your page was up. Write all that stuff down in your notebook. Always keep a notebook. And then just go to your Facebook analytics page and download in 180 chunks. It's tedious, but once you have it, it's very worth it. So I'm gonna show y'all a tool that will help you work together on social media content calendars, and then how to kind of automatically schedule. So I'm going to introduce y'all to tools called Zapier and Hootsuite and Airtable. So this is kind of the basic concept that I'm about to introduce to y'all. When we have multiple people working on a single Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, you have a lot of people contributing their own ideas. So you need a place for all of that stuff to go. So Airtable is essentially a glorified Excel sheet, and it's a place where you can put in all of your content before you actually post it. And it can be a place for you to all work on it collaboratively. So I'm gonna sign into Airtable real quick. Give y'all a look at what a content calendar looks like. Okay.
There's a question while you're looking for your content calendar.
Yeah.
Carly had asked, well, it had said, I've always worried that the sponsored disclaimer turns people off, especially for nonprofits, but it doesn't sound like that's a concern for anyone. So just speaking on that, if you're able to.
I agree with your concern. Sponsored posts are, the fact of the matter is a lot of people don't actually pay attention to what they're engaging with. And when it comes to sponsored posts on Facebook, what's important is that your content be genuine, because people don't pay attention to the fact that it's sponsored so much as they pay attention to it just being not genuine. So you've all seen ads on Facebook that are like, hey, buy this hoodie, or hey, have you been to this restaurant? And the ones that resonate with people are the ones that speak to a real need. So if you make a post that says, hey, we are trying to build our followers, come follow us, that's not going to be received as well as if you say, hey, here's a problem in the community we've identified, come read about it. So that's really the only response I have to that. Be genuine. You can't control how people see the word sponsored. You can't control how they react to it, but you can control what you make. I see Maria asks, is Airtable and Zapier free? And yes, they are. At least the amount of those things that you'll need is free. There are paid options, but you're not going to need them. And CoCalendar, Trello, and Asana are all great. I'm not sure they work with Zapier in the way that I'm going to show you. So just take a look at what I'm going to show you and then see if it works with Trello or Asana. So when you create a content calendar in Airtable, this is kind of what it's going to look like. You have a post name, you say you create a drop down menu based on, is it ready to post? Does it need to be reviewed? And unfortunately, I can't cover how to make these, but if this interests you, you can reach out to me, or feel free to look into it yourself. There's a lot of resources out there. You can create tags, so like, this is going to be news, this is a petition, we're trying to get people to vote by mail. Then the post copy, which is the actual text. So, and if it's linking to a page, and also what day it's going to post and the exact time, and whether or not it has any attachments, so a picture. And then you can also create formulas to count the amount of characters, because as you know, Twitter has a limited number of characters. And also on Facebook, there's a certain number of characters before you have to click more to see it. And people typically don't click that unless it's interesting. So these are useful to have. So once you have one of these can be shared between teams. So you can say, hey, this one is, I'm still working on it, and your teammates can look at the post copy and be like, oh, here's a typo, maybe this should be like this, or something like that, and it'll collaboratively generate that. You can send this to your director or your team lead and be like, is this does this need revisions, or this is ready to post? I see I see some excitement because of this tool. Yeah, it's a good one. So once you have all this, you can actually manually post from here once it's ready to post. But that's annoying, because then you got to have someone in charge of all that. You got to be like, okay, go to our Airtable every day and look for what's ready to post and then post it. So instead of having a person do that, you can have a robot do that, and the robot's name is Zapier. So before you use Zapier, you need something that can schedule posts, and that is called Hootsuite. So just to review, so far we've covered Airtable, and Hootsuite is the online program which actually schedules posts to go out to Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Zapier is the thing that takes all that stuff in that Excel sheet and then tells Hootsuite, here's the things I want you to schedule, and then Hootsuite will post them for you. So it's reducing the workload on actual human beings, and instead letting you use robots.
Yeah, Noon. Nico had asked just about assigning folks to those specific things, or would it just be you going into Airtable and seeing that it's a work in progress and knowing you have to work on it that way?
You can assign people. For instance, this tag thing, unless you're saying you want it to email people, I think you can do that. Yeah, like you can send them. You can select a number and then send those records. Yeah, but this can also just be your everyday workspace kind of edition, where you'd be like, hey, everyone, beginning of the day, open up Airtable, see what's assigned to you. So how do we get Zapier to take stuff from Airtable and put it into Hootsuite, right? So I'm going to log into Zapier real quick. Yeah, so once you've logged into Zapier after resetting your password, you're going to get something like this. And this actually will give you everything you need. So you're going to connect one app to another. So I'm going to connect Airtable. It should find Airtable, and I'm going to connect it to Hootsuite. I'm just going to look at this instead of creating one from scratch. So when you say, every time there's a new record in view in Airtable, schedule a message in Hootsuite, you have to choose your Airtable account, and then you have to set your trigger where you tell it, here's the actual document I want you to use, here's the specific table. So if you remember, this is called Anoon's OVSMA calendar, and then I have these different sheets, but in Airtable they're called tables, which makes sense. So look at that table, and then it's in a grid, and then you test your trigger, it'll look at all these, and then you go into Hootsuite, this part of Zapier which relates to Hootsuite, and you tell it which part of that Airtable means something. So it'll ask you, if there's an image you want to post, which column of your Airtable is that going to be in? So I have a column called attachments. I have a column where it's specifically going to be the post copy and any link that I'm going to post. And then it even as you remember, I have a column in Airtable for when I want it to post. So in Zapier, you can say, look at that column, and that's going to be the time to schedule. So all of this then goes into Hootsuite, which will automatically post, this was supposed to go out on May 30th at 2 o'clock. That's when it's going to go out, because Zapier is going to look at this and then send that to Hootsuite. So this really takes a lot of manual, like, tedious work out of the equation. And it's a great tool for people who are working on, teams of 2 or 3.
And then Carly asked, are there tools that you like for a one-person team?
Absolutely. The first thing I like is setting up Google News alerts. So I can go to my email for this. Just don't look at anything that you're not supposed to look at. So when you set up a Google alert, you can set up Google alerts for specific words. So every day at around 10, I get an email that tells me if any news has been posted using one of the things I'm looking for. So I have a Google alert set up for basically every org we work with. So Fair Election Center, Common Cause. I really need to know about anything that's happening in Ohio relating to voting or investment, public investment, or like public health. So if there's any news, like Common Cause is in the news, I get that in my email, and I have to look at those every day. The next tool is definitely going to be Google Sheet, to basically make exactly what this is. So I do have one of these where I kind of have a running tally of posts that I might want to make in the future. But really, the other thing that you should use is the native scheduler on these pages. So Twitter doesn't have a native scheduler, neither does Instagram, but Facebook does. So if you go to Facebook's your page management section, and you go to the main page first, and then you should be able to go to publishing tools. And this is the place where you can actually schedule posts ahead of time within Facebook. This is definitely a tool I use a lot just to make sure posts, so you'll see like these are posts that either have already gone out or posts that are ready to go out. And this way I don't have to be on Facebook every day. I can just spend 4 or 5 hours on one day saying, here's all the things I want to put on Facebook over the course of the next month, and just put that straight in. So you just go here, create a post, write something like hello, and then you can add a photo, you can add a video, you can add a link, you can even add a location, or one of those feelings or activities. And then instead of publishing right away, in the bottom right, you click on this arrow and you schedule the post. And that is very useful. You can't do that with tweets, nor should you, because Twitter is a lot more reactionary. And it would help to be able to do it on Instagram, but that's where Hootsuite or tools like Hootsuite come into play. And we don't really maintain a TikTok, but you can do the same thing on YouTube. It's just called YouTube Studio. So if you go to youtube.com and you go to the top right where your icon is, you can go to YouTube Studio. And then when you upload stuff, you can say, I want this to be public, a week from today, instead of it going public as soon as you upload it, which is how a lot of YouTubers work. They upload a lot of stuff ahead of time, and then instead of it actually going up as soon as they upload it, it will, publish, once every week or twice a week or something like that. So those are the tools that I mainly use on the internet. There's another video on our YouTube channel about graphic editing, and I think in the future we're going to also look at video editing, because those are important tools as well for creating a good digital presence.